I'd like to call this special meeting of the Board of Education to order, please. And I'd like to first welcome everybody from here, being here, and thank Gordon and the J.E. Dunn faculty for having us here today and hosting it. And so before we get started, I'd like for everybody to just pause, go get lunch, and then we'll wait a few minutes, and then we'll start. Get right on into it. Thank you. Perfect. Right there.
So lunch is served, ladies. Lunch is served. What did you want? You have a preference? You gotta take care of this one first? Are you gonna take care of this one? Okay, all right.
We got you offended.
Thank you. I appreciate you, Linda. Get it. Okay. Well, there's anything I can do besides just dumbfounded. Okay. That happens. No, Harold's getting her. She's got service.
You're taking care of them.
I'm fine. I'm fine. Thank you. Turkey or ham?
It's a good one.
Turkey.
You got one coming in.
Well, you got me the other day.
I know.
Turkey or ham?
Oh, Jamie didn't get up and get hers.
Mr. Brown's being a gentleman. Relax. Relax. Be yourself. You got this. Brown's such a gentleman. So, going around the room, having everybody introduce, so you could do a roll call and then ask everybody else to introduce themselves. Then after that, approve your agenda, and then I'll help set the stage.
Turkey bacon.
Susan, do we know Greg's coming?
I'd rather have the thank you, thank you. Any pepper, any regular cheese, they can have it. Everybody got it? We're going to do a working lunch, so as we get started here, we ask everybody to just continue to eat, and I'll now ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Harold Brown.
Present.
Maxine Drew.
Present.
J.D. Humphrey. Here. Brenda Jones.
Present.
Wanda Brown Page.
Present.
Darlene Wynn. Here.
Thank you. Now I'd like for all those in the room to go around and introduce yourselves to us, please.
Lee, maybe we can start with you.
Okay, Lee Moore with J.D. Dunn, the bond construction manager for your projects. You guys probably all recognize me. It's good to see you. Thank you for coming.
Sheree Cochran, work for J.D. Dunn, project manager, and I am working right now at Wyandotte High School and Arrowhead Middle School renovations.
I'm Pete Burney with J.D. Dunn Construction, and I lead the diversity, inclusion, and compliance work for the company.
Keisha Bosby, diversity manager, J.D. Dunn, and I'm the outreach and inclusion manager on the bond project.
Yes.
Kelly Mather, with the school district.
Susan Westfall, circuit board.
Dr. Stacey Aker, school board.
Harold Brown, school board.
J.D. Humphrey, school board.
Cindy Lane, superintendent.
Brittany C. Jones, board president.
Wanda Page, school board.
Dr. Darlene Wynn, school board.
Maxine Drew, school board.
Lauren Kepler, J.D. Dunn. I work on student engagement and staff engagement with the school district. Linda Webb with J.D. Dunn, and the project coordinator for KCK projects.
Gordon Lansford, I'm the CEO of J.D. Dunn.
And Eric Floyd, I lead our K-12 group at J.D. Dunn, and working with you all currently on project.
Behind you is?
Behind you is
Chris
cameraman.
Jackson. Chris Jackson.
And our camera lady. That lady is
I'm Crystal Woodbury with the school district.
Wayne Correll, school district.
Brian Hernandez with the school district.
Mark Sevelo with the school district.
Jason Strickland, school district.
Arlene Kramer, school district. Melissa Pierce, school district.
And I'm Doug Dunn, director of physical properties for the school district.
That's it. That's it.
Thank you. Excuse me. Now ask for the approval of the special agenda.
So moved. Second.
Motion's been made in second. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposing, hearing none, so ordered. Thank you. Dr. Lane.
Thank you. Thank you very much to Gordon and the entire J.E. Dunn team for having us here today. It's a great opportunity to learn about the inclusive programs that are available to engage folks in our bond work. Prior to asking Gordon to make some comments, I just want to thank the team. Gordon has been instrumental in ensuring that J.E. Dunn is involved in Diploma Plus. In fact, it was his work, the efforts that he took place, that we have many CEOs from across the metropolitan area that sit on that steering committee. From that, our students are involved in internships. They're involved in hands-on experiences in many fields, but in particular with Dunn in the construction arena. They have embraced having our students on the work sites so they can fully understand what it means to be involved in construction kind of work. So in addition to that, we are very grateful that Dunn recently has a $20,000 sponsor to our scholarship golf tournament. So I was asked by Kathleen to make a comment about going all in, and I just want to say thank you, because I think the Dunn team is going all in, not just to build buildings, but to help us make sure our young people have pathways to their future. So thank you very much for that, Gordon. Glad we're here. We'd love to have you make some comments too.
Okay. Well, thank you again for having us. Again, my name is Gordon Lansford. I'm the CEO of J.D. Dunn, and we're very excited to welcome you today to our our William H. Dunn Senior Logistics Center, which we opened about 3 years ago. And we've got about 12 acres here. We've got about 60,000+ square feet under roof. And as you can see when you came in, we have a lot of equipment. So what we do here, we have about 120 employees, and they really control all of our equipment and our logistics across the entire country. So not just here in Kansas City specifically, but across the country. So we were excited to, our former logistics center was north of the river in Kansas City, Missouri, and we were very specific and deliberate about coming to Kansas City, Kansas and Wyandotte County. So we're excited to be here. We're excited to be your neighbors. We're generating tax dollars and everything else that you know go along with a thriving business. And we're happy to come back into your community and your school specifically. So we always start every meeting at J.E. Dunn with a safety moment. And this happens to be National Safety Week. You can see the theme on the wall there is the power of safe choices. So it's not only Safety Week for J.E. Dunn, it's really Safety Week for the entire construction industry. But we start every meeting at J.E. Dunn with a safety moment. And our tagline for safety is everyone, everywhere, all the time. And the way we try to make safety personal with our employees so that they think about working safely on the job site, every decision, every choice they make, is we want to extend it to their families and their friends. So and we want to extend that to you all as well. So whatever you're doing outside of work, when you're at home, we talk a lot about ladder safety, for example. We want to make sure you think about safe choices in everything you do. Because there are a lot of people in this community counting on your leadership, and we wouldn't want you to be hurt on a ladder or anything else that you do. So when you leave here today, there's a lot of traffic, a lot of big truck traffic going in and out of here, so we remind you to be very safe as you leave, and obviously you put your cell phone down in your vehicle, and distracted driving is a real challenge in our country right now, so we always remind people to please don't drive distracted. And hopefully you all know that when we work on your projects, obviously we want to be very focused on the safety of our team and our workers, and men and women that work for us and our trade partners. But especially in a school environment, we put the safety of the students and the faculty and staff and the parents picking children up priority number one. So I hope you've seen that as you've been able to visit some of our job sites. There we go. So I'm just going to kick this off. You probably don't want to hear much from me. You want to hear from our team that's working on your projects. But Dr. Lane already alluded to some of this. There's a lot of alignment between J.E. Dunn and the Kansas City, Kansas Public School District. So your purpose is inspiring excellence, every grown-up, every child, every day. Our purpose is very similar to that. We exist to enrich lives, to inspire people and places. And our employees get really excited to build buildings, but they get more excited about impacting the lives of the people that are going to use that building. Okay, so we're in a very neat business. We build beautiful buildings that stand the test of time. We're very proud of that, but we're more proud of the fact that how it impacts the lives of the people that use those buildings. And we've been, again, Dr. Lane commented, we've been very supportive of the school district, not only in being able to do the great work for you on the building side, but we love to get behind your initiatives because we believe in what you're doing. The Diploma Plus program, I've personally been very inspired by that, and that's why I've got personally involved in helping create some community leaders to provide curriculum and advice to your principals and faculty at various high schools or academies. So we've been excited to do that, as well as providing some financial support back to the district. So we're a very purpose-driven organization, and we're excited to help inspire the lives of the children in your district and the families. And we even have a very specific project purpose statement, and I'll let Eric talk about that because he and his team came up with that.
Thanks, Gordon. So just to sort of enhance what Gordon had mentioned about kind of why we do things and the why, the question of the why. On your bond projects, as we got rolling, we created a project purpose statement specifically for KCK School District. The team that was involved, that is involved, all got together. We sat down and said, what is this all about? So in tying the the words that Gordon just mentioned, enriching lives to inspire people and places, we came up with this purpose statement. Enrich the learning environments and the lives of every KCKPS student and the community through the construction of inspired places. We often say, you know, in the group that we have really just one client, and that is kids. So knowing that the district's doing great things to make that happen as well, to work in the best behalf for those kids, we feel like we're really aligned in that same direction. So anytime we think about how tough the projects are, or how the tough phone calls we got to make to trade partners, or the weather's bad, or whatever the case may be, we can always go back to that statement and remind ourselves that this is why we're doing what we're doing. So that's the whole point. So again, thank you for being here. My name is Eric Floyd. I lead the K-12 group at J. Dunn. Just a little preview, I guess, of the agenda. We've got about 5 topics to cover. Want to make it interactive. If you guys have questions, fire away. If you want to wait till the end, that's fine too. We'll take it any way. We're flexible that way. So I think we passed out this agenda, right? Do we have this agenda?
Just attached.
Okay, all right. Well, we did think through this. So we've got a pretty logical process we wanted to walk through here and share with you information. This is a little bit of reporting, but it's a little bit of, I think, our team displaying to you the passion we have to be building for you and for your kids in your district. And we're going to get that kicked off now. So kicking it off to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lee.
Thanks. So again, this is the agenda here. You've got a plethora of handouts that we've provided you, and we will hit on those throughout the presentation and reporting today. So I'm going to start out by talking about a quick construction update, and talk a little bit about cost update, and then we'll hit into inclusion. So one of the first attachments you've got is basically, this is your bond issue in a nutshell. I say one piece of paper, and we've got it listed by months on the bottom. Each of the work packages that we're currently either working on during construction or pre-con are listed there. And this just gives you a snapshot of basically to this line, April, everything black is basically work that is completed. Everything blue is either remaining work, or in the case of everything here above, is future work that we're currently working on the pre-construction phase of it. So this graph represents about, everything from work package 8 down is about 44% of the project. It's about $77 million worth of construction costs. And then this is just a very simple cost graph, and this is hard costs. Basically, the point of this is to show the blue is kind of our budget, the target that we're trying to hit with our projects. The black line, which stops at work package 4A, which is the last project we bid. Basically, this is the bid cost and our GMP. And so the key here is we're showing a trend of savings on the construction side, which ultimately falls into that and contributes to the $15 million worth of savings we've been talking about recently with our construction updates. So, any question on schedule or this particular graph before I move on? And you have the schedule in front of you. You don't have the cost graph necessarily, but okay. So I'm going to turn it over to Pete and Keisha and have them talk just about J. Dunn and our inclusion for us.
Good morning. Again, my name is Pete Burney. I joined J.E. Dunn last year to lead diversity, inclusion, and compliance for the company. That came after a 26 almost year career at Hallmark Cards, where I was accountable for their operations groups and for supplier diversity. And so I'm going to just share with you a couple of minutes of perspective and then turn this over to Nikisha to go into more detail around activities and actions that we've taken as a company relative to your projects. As I considered the audience today, I tried to put myself in your shoes and say, well, what might the audience want to hear from someone who's fairly new to J.E. Dunn about this body of work? And one word came to mind, and that was commitment. So how committed is he to the work at hand and to this philosophy of small business inclusion for the company? So I want to give you a little bit of a sense of what my commitment is. I was fortunate in this community to serve on the Minority Supplier Council Board for 9 years, and while I'm not an I person, I was really fortunate to work with lots of great business leaders, including leaders from J.E. Dunn, on advancing initiatives around what we call small businesses, but that really is inclusive of veteran-owned businesses, women-owned businesses, minority-owned businesses, businesses owned by people with disabilities. And I was fortunate to be acknowledged as a champion of diversity and an executive advocate a few years ago. And if nothing else, I just share that with you to let you know that I'm vested in this, and I have been for several years in this community, and my opportunity leading this group is to continue to build on the work that J.E. Dunn has already demonstrated in this space and bring new initiatives and new passion and new commitment and renewed commitment to you as stakeholders in this work. What I want to make sure that you understand is we have an ongoing commitment to a few specific areas. And those areas are proactive and sustained outreach and commitment to small businesses within the communities in which we operate. Development and training of small businesses in the communities in which we operate. Ongoing community engagement and partnership. And also workforce development relative to trying to build new skills and new entrants into this construction market and trades that are critical to construction projects. So I want to make sure that I at least convey to you my commitment to this space and a little bit of my history in this space. But what I want to do now is turn it over to Nikisha and have her share specifically some of the actions and initiatives that have been undertaken and will continue to be undertaken as we advance this work with Kansas City, Kansas schools. Yes, ma'am.
I would like to know, you said one of the key components was community engagement. Could you share what your vision, your personal vision of what that would look like?
Sure, absolutely. So we've been talking a lot since I got to J.E. Dunn about the 3 pillars of what we see a diversity strategy to be. And they revolve around marketplace, workforce, and workplace. So real briefly, when we think about marketplace, and Nikisha's going to refer to this, we're not talking about just doing things in the marketplace because it's compliance and we have to do it. It's forging relationships that allow us to do great work with great partners, but also to do great work that supports education, healthcare, other initiatives that advance our communities beyond just our ability to earn projects. And that comes through relationships, through understanding what initiatives and projects we can get behind and support, like fundraisers and activities that really advance the communities within which we operate, whether there's a project associated with it or not. When I think about the workforce component, it's about partnering with organizations and communities, various contractor associations and minority supplier groups and women's groups to get us access to talent. Because the best talent is not going to come from one segment of society. We realize that those community partnerships will allow us inroads to groups that can give us the most diverse and the best talent possible. So that hits on that workforce component. And the third pillar is workplace. And that's where inclusion comes in. We want to make J.E. Dunn a place that once we hire the best people, they feel great about working here, and they stay. And they then give back to the communities within which we operate. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of a strategy framework for how we're approaching community relative to our 3 pillars of our strategy. You're welcome. Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a comment. Now, what you say, it sounds good, but in the community, a lot of people that we talk to, they're not too impressed with that. And what saddened me is when we did the groundbreaking ceremony, as a minority, I didn't see too many people of color. I didn't see a lot of women. So it's what you see and what you say. You want the two to jive and come together. And when you go out and you see these groundbreaking, I didn't see many black men working in construction. I didn't see many Asian men. I didn't see many women. I'm hearing what you're saying, but what I see is 2 different things. And it kind of hurts, because I'm looking at the kids, and as a former teacher, I want to be able careful to tell them that these opportunities are available, that they can go out and get a job, but when you don't see it, then, you know, we're looking around saying, hey, did you see anybody over there? And then we go to the next school and I'm looking, I'm counting. That's just something my parents instilled in us. Wherever we went, what did you see? Who did you see? Did you see yourself? And that's important because we want these kids to believe that they have an opportunity. And when you don't see it and you hear people say it, the two have to come together. Because if not, then you have to begin to wonder what's going on.
Personally, I respect your perspectives, and we all know that the first step toward healing is acknowledgement. And we know we have opportunities. We know the industry has opportunities, and certainly J.E. Dunn has opportunities. I think what Nikisha is going to share with you is some proactive efforts that we're taking to try and make that trend a more apparent one, a more visible one within the communities that we operate. So I don't want to stand here and try to paint a picture that's different from the one you see. I respect the one that you see. As another person of color, I see some of those same perspectives. I think our work is around progress that we can make visible and tangible over time. So maybe in subsequent engagements with you, that picture in your mind looks a little bit different. So I want to make sure that you understand we acknowledge there are significant opportunities, and in my short tenure here, we know that. And we're going to do our best to target very specific and tangible initiatives and measures that you'll see some of which today that maybe begin to paint a different picture.
Well, I hope so, because that's what people want to see.
Yes, ma'am.
And it's important that they see it. How could we say that we're part of this global society? And people need to see themselves. And I hope what you say comes to life and we can begin to see that. But right now, it's a big question mark.
You understand. Thank you.
Let me follow up just briefly before you make your presentation. You'll probably include this. You personally, what is your involvement in this community? Your minority supply, that's Kansas, Missouri. And it's almost a different world across the river with the construction and the minority participation aspect. What do you do in Gwinnett County? Or have you had an opportunity to do anything in Gwinnett County?
Yes, ma'am. So just for a little bit of clarification, so what was the Mid-America Minority Supplier Development Council became the Mountain Plains Minority Supplier Development Council, and that does encompass Kansas, Missouri, Nebraska, et cetera. So, but clearly the manifestation of most of the work has been on the Missouri side. You know, over the years at least, that's where the headquarters has been. In my 8 months here, I can't point to, other than my engagement and at least one outreach on this project specifically, I can't point to a litany of history that I have in this community with these types of construction projects. But what I can do is, as I just referenced, I can, over time going forward, begin to build relationships and build a history of tangible actions that I personally have been engaged in. On this project, again, in 8 months, I participated in one community outreach event relative to this particular project. I met lots of great people from this district and from the community, but that's where it stands with my short tenure in the district. But I just wanted to make sure, in this role, but I just wanted to make sure you understand that the scope of my participation thus far in the metro area really has included work on both sides of the state line.
Well, welcome to the county.
Thank you very much. Much appreciated.
Hopefully Nikisha will be able to speak to some of the very specific things we've done in this community and relative to this project.
And how long has this facility been here?
3 years.
3 years. That's right.
Turn it over to Keisha.
Afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Keisha Bosman, as Pete alluded, Diversity Manager for J.E. Dunn, and I've been working on the bond project since the start. Have met many of you in this room, so I'm glad to see you and run into you once again. As Pete alluded to, and I thank Pete for his leadership in this space. He's really brought a really new perspective to me, even with my longer tenure in this space, and so I really appreciate his new vision and just kind of direction that he sees going forward with our department. J.E. Dunn knows how to be compliant and to reach goals on projects. We do that. I'm sorry, can you hear me? J.E. Dunn has experience with goals on projects and reaching those goals. We do that. We know how to do that. But that's not our goal as a company, as an organization. Our goal is to have an inclusive culture all the time, and that's on our job sites and in our office, as you have heard already. from some of our other speakers. Essentially, of our diversity and inclusion initiatives is displayed here on the screen. And I'll tell you that all of our initiatives have been put in place specifically to eliminate barriers and to provide access to the small businesses. That's the number one thing that I hear time and time again from the small businesses that I work with them. They don't know about certain things, they don't know how to get to certain things, et cetera, et cetera. And so everything that we really try to build and done for small businesses is to really eliminate those barriers, once again, whether it's knowing the right folks, where I get plans, whatever that is, and then providing that access, making sure they know how to get everything it is they need, and then be able to be successful with that. Small business support that we reference up here is really talking to some of the programs that we offer in-house for our small business, such as early pay options, referrals to professional resources. Often, you know, these small companies come, they don't have a lot of the tools that they need, and so as an organization, we've built several relationships throughout the city where we have good relationships with some organizations that we can refer these small businesses to get those items met. Pre-qualification workshops, this is what we're alluding to here with SMS. We host those workshops in our office, we host them with other partners and in other organizations, but it's really to walk small businesses through the process of how to get pre-qualified to do work with J.E. Dunn. A lot of times you see those links on web pages and on brochures handed out, but we actually take the time to sit down with those contractors and walk them through that process if that's something that they need. Our risk management team is very active. We do a lot of one-on-one meetings with our trade partners, and like I just said, we're going to have another workshop in KCK coming up very soon to just continue to reinforce the importance of having that pre-qualification and making sure they can get through it successfully. We don't want it to be a barrier, right? Our quarterly meetings, we host quarterly meetings in our office on a regular basis, facilitated by our operations team. So gentlemen like Lee, Eric come in and they talk about this project and other projects that we have. Not just projects with goals. We talk about all of our projects, again, providing information and access to small businesses so they know who to contact, how to get the plans, etc., and be involved. Steve Dunn made that very apparent years ago that he wanted our quarterly meetings to be inclusive of all of our work, not just those projects that had goals. And again, this is feedback that we continue to receive from the community as we continue to strive to make this process better. Our Minority Contractor Development Program, MCD for short. That's a program that we've had it done since about 2005. It's a free program to small businesses in construction. And if you have referrals, I would love to get some of your names from you. Looking to launch this program in the next couple of months here in Kansas City. And the curriculum is full. It's about a 9-month program, and it's full of topics for business owners, really. To help them with the foundations of their businesses, the process, the procedures. It's meant for networking, so we have the classes in our office and they are facilitated by J.E. Dunn professionals. We don't hire consultants. We're actually spending the time and investing into these small businesses that eventually we'd like to contract with. And then active memberships with our minority women organizations throughout the community. As you guys know, we're members of Heartland Black Chamber, the Hispanic Contractors Association, etc. But the important thing to know is that we're not just paying members, but we're active members. We participate in events with these different organizations all the time. We host them, they host us, they advocate for us, we advocate for them. So we're very active with these organizations and not just by check alone.
I have a question.
I'm sorry, yes.
Thank you very much for your presentation. You were saying about you're reaching goals. What goals specifically are you talking about?
Just various projects that we've had over the years. So obviously, J.E. Dunn, we've built a lot of large projects in Kansas City and KCK, and many of them have goals that are assessed on them that we have to reach for small business participation. And so my point was, we have a good track record of doing that, obviously, and we can do that, but that's not our end of all. That's what we have to do for that client. But as a company, we practice small business inclusion on all of our projects. And so just when a goal is required is when we actually have to report it out. But it is something that we do on a regular basis on all of our projects.
When is your next, the MBE, you said the support meeting? The support MBE organization, you said that's something you're going to be doing in the future?
So, and I've got another slide coming up where I'm going to talk about specific events coming up with dates. With our quarterly meetings, the next one will be held in June. And obviously everyone here is invited to any of these outreach events. So please make sure you come and invite small business because we need them there. We're going to host another pre-qualification workshop after one of our EIC meetings coming up. And there's another deal coming up too very soon. But I'll share all that with you, but again, all these events, you all are very welcome to attend.
In your inclusion philosophy, what is your definition of, you've given us statistics on here for MDE, WDE, and LDE. What is that statistics for the local? So how far of a reach is that local?
The local radius, I believe it was a 75-mile radius from the school district.
That's right.
We have a slide on it.
And yeah, and we'll have more on that too in detail.
All right.
Yes, ma'am.
In terms of your workforce, can you give any numbers like what percentage are women, what percentage are Black, Asian? Can you provide us with that data at this time?
I do not have it with me. That is something that we track, obviously, but I'm sorry I didn't bring that with me today. Is that something we can share later?
I would like to know that. And
let me be clear, are you talking about on this project or a company?
No, just your company as a whole,
Just
not this project.
Okay.
And then my other question, the gentleman talked about it, and you also said about the community and the workforce and the marketplace. Do you hire local people just to be out working, and are they aware of that?
As far as labor on the projects or oh yes, ma'am. We hire tons from our community. I mean, we are signatory to several trade unions here locally, so obviously we're recruiting from them on a regular basis. Local is pretty typical for construction. It's kind of frowned upon when you go outside your community to do, to bring folks in to do construction work. So we usually try to stay within communities and employ those communities that we're working in.
And then on your sheet here, I think this is excellent that the young man who's one of our students got an opportunity, but can you give us some numbers on how many more have you involved in this program?
I will talk more about student programming, but Ricky is actually a student that worked with me last summer, and he's going to return and work with me again this summer. He graduates this year. So we have had student programming at JE Dunn since probably about 2005 or 6, and I can give you more on that involvement. But I don't have specific numbers with me on things like that today. I don't have, but I mean, I could talk all day about student programming. I've been their point of contact since about 2005. I have more pictures of them on my desk than my own kids. So we can definitely talk student internships and programming.
Because, I mean, we're paying out a lot of money, and it would be nice to see a lot of our kids have advantage of this and be able to come in and do internships, be able to come in and get jobs. Because, like I said, we're not paying $2. $15 million in addition to the other bids. So you would think, you hope, I know there's some, but we would like to see more.
Right. And we've had some programming, again, throughout the years where we've partnered with the Kansas City School District to put together a program called iGrow, which is an intern student program. Interns gaining relevant opportunities while working. And what that is a partnership that we put together with the school district where we help train about 20 students for 2 or 3 years in a row to give them soft skills that they needed, put them through an interview process, kind of all that preparation work, and then we partner with other organizations in town to help them get summer work. So we were recruiting companies like Blue Cross Blue Shield, Cerner, et cetera, saying, hey, JE Dunn's going to employ 2 students this summer. Would you join us in this mission? And so we continue to do that through employing students like Ricky Bowie and other students that will work with us this year. We're also supporters of the Crystal Ray work study program, and we have been with them since they started here in Kansas City. We employ 4 students every year, and they work in our office through the school year. So we definitely invested in trying to create a diverse pipeline for construction and starting very young, like you're saying, in the schools.
Well, okay, you talked about in high school, once they graduate, do Do you have any numbers on how many you've employed?
I can,
If they
so
came
I can give you 2 students that I work with directly, but again, for like campus numbers and whatnot, we do have all of that. And I apologize, we didn't bring numbers like that today to share with all of you. I hope someone's taking notes and we can put some of this together for you. Okay. But we have a really good campus program, and one of my students that I like to brag about is Louis Armstrong. He was actually a Lincoln High School grad that went off to K-State. He did a summer internship with us last year. So proud of him. And then Savion Mason was a student last year that graduated from Crystal Ray. He's now at CSU doing really well, and he's in project management, so I'm glad about that. And then as you see, Ricky is considering construction management too. So again, like Pete said, you know, it's small bites, a little bit at a time, trying to reach and have a major impact, but it's just one step at a time.
I have a couple. In a sense, Wyandotte County is a media desert. A media desert. We have no newspaper, limited online. How do you get your information out to this community? And when you say local, you're probably speaking metro area, right? So we don't want to sound too parochial, but when you gave the example, excuse me, broccoli in my teeth. When you gave your example of lack of better word, those who you've been working with, those 2 schools were in Missouri, right?
Those 2, yes, those were examples.
So I say, don't want to sound too parochial, but we need to concentrate on Wyandotte County,
Absolutely.
KCK.
Absolutely.
And so that's where most of our questions are going, wish list is going, direction is going.
Understood.
So go back to my other couple questions. How's this word getting out in Wyandotte County?
I mean, boots on the ground. I mean, we're continuing to partner with organizations like the Kansas NAACP. You know, we're planning to host an outreach with them very soon. Just very grassroots and boots on the ground type efforts. I mean, I'm constantly meeting with different organizations and contractors. We've got our website. We've got this new newsletter that we've got now. We've got the Economic Inclusion Committee that was developed specifically for this project to also kind of help us with tentacles out in the community. I mean, various efforts I mean, we know we couldn't do just one thing and expect to reach so many, so that's why you see so many different initiatives listed.
Well, I guess what some of our media feedback is that it may not be getting out.
Okay. That
maybe there needs to be some further encouragement or push, or to say, I'm working with NAACP. Well, what do they do? You know, are they sitting on it? Is it getting out? You may have to kind of, perhaps. And it may work, but nevertheless, when your last slide before, when you say your I guess your MCD program, it was currently working in 2004. Has it been dormant? You said you're launching it.
No, we launched it we first started at J.E. Dunn back in 2005, but now we're about to launch our next class here this year.
Okay, so it's been ongoing from 2005 to present.
Correct, and we've graduated, well, maybe about 10 or so classes in between that time. And so now we're looking to launch our next class, and with that we'll go through a recruitment process. And so that's why I said if you all have any referrals of small contractors that you think might be a good fit for this program, I'd love to meet them.
And we would love to have some statistics on the history output. Okay. That if it's been going on for 14 years, what success have you had in, again, Wyandotte County?
Well, Wyandotte County, I would have to parse out and tell you separately, but I can tell you as a whole, I've been close to this program since it started. We've contracted over $150 million with the companies that have graduated to date, but that's across the country that have come out of the program, and that represents about 300 companies or so.
And that's success by itself. But
so I can give you more specific though to local.
On the micro level.
Yes.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
You spoke about the students that are available to come and do internships and projects. I would like to know the maximum capacity of students that would be available to have an internship or mentorship here available for students, and then how many students could be possibly thought of or slotted specifically for Kansas City, Kansas public school students, so that as we think about how we can align with our Diploma Plus program, plus internships to make sure that they want to go into that area, how we can encompass it like a wraparound approach, meaning go through the courses, understand what they see on the job, for just more than a week, go out and see it one time, but actual something in the summer or during the school year to actually see that what they're learning put into work. And so a number of companies that I've worked for have already looked at what capacity, what's the maximum number of students or mentors can we have, and then based upon that, how many students could be slotted with the district and then work from there. That way our college and career coordinators can also be involved and know kind of what to expect. Like Crystal Ray has a great example because they know specifically for students, for the companies, whatever, because that's how their model is across the country. But the unique thing is that this Diploma Plus program is very awesome, but we too need to see how we can help the businesses see the overall of the student needs and the student component of an ongoing thing as he just spoke. We want to sustain them. So not just for next year, but for the next 10 years as our students are graduating and working for JE Dunn, and then those, the pipeline keeps going and sustaining, that I feel would help with what the overall objective is.
And we are working with the Diploma Plus program. I know Lauren's going to talk more about all of that student involvement, so I don't want to steal too much her thunder. But I'll tell you, each summer we typically have about 4 students, and we can talk about the selection process and that, if that makes sense.
Excuse me. Could I make could the board hold their questions until the presentation so we can get through the presentations and just make note if you have a question so they can do the presentation and get it, we can ask questions. Please.
So can I chime in on that?
Yes. Go ahead.
So I'm glad you asked the question. You maybe it was in the wrong order. Because this is something we've really been talking about, because there's kind of 2 different schools of thought. I mean, an internship versus how do we expose students to our business so that they have an interest in it as a career. And our capacity to do that is much broader, almost limitless. In fact, we'd like it to be limitless, as opposed to actually getting kids to work throughout the entire summer on a project in a risky environment, on a construction site. So our capacity there is much less, to be candid. And a lot of those internships are college level kids or post-primary education kids as opposed to the younger children. But what we're very interested in, because we have a huge labor shortage in the industry, is to get younger kids focused on those jobs and those careers. So our outreach to expose them to our industry could be much different. We could have a broad capacity. We'd love to get feedback from you all, and probably not today because I know you have a specific agenda, but how do we do that? Because that helps you all and that helps us, because we'd love to have people from this community come to work for JE Dunn. There's nothing that would make us more proud, and frankly, we have a huge need for it. So maybe we have a discussion about a formal internship program versus an exposure program to our industry, and I think those are 2 very different things. Does that help?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, thank you all for the interaction. Keisha and I are going to talk a little bit about our specific outreach. So we kind of started at a high level, at the JE Dunn level, kind of what we do as an organization, company-wide. Now we want to dive down into kind of the specific things that we've done for this particular project in Wyandotte County for the bond project. So we're going to hit on the EIC you've heard about. Keisha's going to hit on that. I'm going to go through the dedicated website. We've got a newsletter that's part of the attachments, and then just kind of talk about some of those other meetings and outreach events that we've kind of been sprinkling on throughout the presentation. So I'll turn it back over to Keisha to talk a little bit about the EIC.
I kind of hit on the EIC earlier, Economic Inclusion Committee, and again, it was developed specifically for this bond project. I like to say that the purpose of it is to assist us, again, with the transparency and the communication with the community. That was a big and one thing we wanted to make sure that we didn't have as a challenge. Many of the members you'll see listed here are, it's a diverse group of folks, and you'll see that they're from different aspects of small business. So you have the chambers, you have some folks from the trades council, we were just talking about workforce. and again, representation from the KCK side as well. So this committee, I would like to say, it's really been valuable. It's been a good tool. I would say we'd like to see the attendance increase. Some of our members haven't been as active coming to those meetings as we'd like them to. We have a good steady core group that comes, but again, the purpose was so that we can have as many tentacles out in the community as possible, and if they're not attending, then that kind of, puts a little buzz on that. So. In those meetings, we talked about bid results, we talked about participation, we discussed best practices around small business and inclusion. This committee gives us feedback on any challenges that we might see if we can't find certain folks in certain scopes. So it's really been a good back and forth with this group to really help us achieve a lot of the small business participation that we've had already.
Thank you, Keisha. So, question earlier, glad we had this slide in here. To talk about how we're figuring the LBE number that you're seeing on the handout there. So when we talked about the EIC, we put together a memorandum of understanding, which had kind of our guidelines on how we were handling certain inclusion items. And one of those things was to determine the range of LBE. And so the numbers you see basically include a 75-mile radius from the district and within the boundaries of the school district, Kansas City, Kansas, Wyandotte County, and Jackson County. So again, that's hopefully that answers the question from earlier about how we're calculating that. And again, that was included in that original agreement that we worked on at the beginning of the project. So dedicated website. Lauren's going to help me out on this one. But this was an effort at the beginning of the project. Lauren worked directly with members of your staff to basically establish this and set up this website that is basically intended to provide all sorts of information, whether it's for the bidders, but also community and staff and students. So we have, and we'll kind of just do a brief intro if we...
Lauren, it may be coming out of the floor. Socket. Check your floor plug.
Oh, it is. Here, we'll scoot over this way a little. Thought it was me.
Plug it and plug it back in. There we go. That's Sophie. It's not on our website, but we'll get that back up. So, that's the youngest.
It's a good reminder of why we're here.
Right. That's right. So.
While you're waiting, tell us the date of your next EIC meeting.
So the next EIC meeting is June 5th.
Okay. Time?
1 o'clock. 1 o'clock.
Location?
District office.
Usually it's in room 333.
So we'll start with the trade partner page, and we've got a bunch of information here. We'll pick on the first one, which is become a partner. So this is where the trade partners have direct access to our SMS system that Keisha talked about earlier, whether you have an account or you want to create an account. Also on the lines of communication, there's information here that anyone can fill out requesting information. This email goes to Linda Webb. She is the keeper of all communication for us, keeps us in line and holds us together here. So this is just one, again, we're talking about all the different ways of outreach. This is one of those. Click on bid and calendar events. So this is a calendar, and this is all stuff that is updated regularly. So here's a calendar, and I think we've got through July. We've got different events shown. We put, targeted out to bid dates for projects there, and bid dates. Again, those are all tentative, but that's kind of what we know right now. We've also got some outreach events on there as well. So again, another tool for anyone to use on that. And then we have our bid package overview. You also have a handout of this one here. It looks like it's not up there exactly, but you have a handout. It's a 2-page document. Dr. Mather's got it there. So this is a document that we keep updated, and at every outreach event that we go to, we will hand that out to everyone and participating. Again, the intent is to have it up here on this page as well. And this gives a real good snapshot of kind of what projects we have upcoming, the dollar values, targeted bid dates and out to bid dates, and then also a brief description of the project as well. So in those outreach events, I usually will go into some detail on the ones that are upcoming pretty soon. Which leads me to the next one, which we have all these different bid packages listed here. And I'm going to have Lauren click on 15. This is the next bid package we have coming out. And so this is a specific information about that particular project. So we've got some out to bid dates. We still haven't set up the pre-bid date yet. We've got just some general information about the bid. And then we've got our scope of work listing, which this was one thing that came out of the EIC meetings was tell us what kind of scopes of work that are going to be on these particular projects. So Lauren, if you'll scroll down, these are all the different scope packages that we'll have, and this gives potential bidders an idea of what's involved in that project and what they can look for. So, and then we typically have a little bit of schedule information as well. So, and then so this kind of takes care of. Hold on. So then go up to high school, please, if you will, and click on Wyandotte. So this is an opportunity where, and these will look familiar because we provide these at the board meetings, but if you scroll down, there's some general information, but we provide basically monthly updates on the progress of that project. So at any time, if you have a student at Wyandotte High School and want to know what's going on, you can go to this website as well to find that information. Before I forget, there's also a business card that should have been a part of your packet. That's also a mechanism that we hand out at all the outreach events that basically has this particular website address on it that people can use. There's also, if we finally go to your home page for your school district, if you click here on bond referendum information here, that takes you right back to that dedicated website. So we've tried to create as many paths as possible to get to this information. We're pretty proud of this. We do not do this kind of thing on every project, so we're excited that this is a good example of an alternative way to get the information out. So if we jump back to the presentation, Keisha's going to talk a little bit about our newsletter, which is also an 11 by 17 attachment. That is the first version of that newsletter, and I'll let Keisha just briefly talk about the intent of that. Sorry about that.
So, and you guys have already seen it, I think you've already put it out and you were speaking about Ricky, but this was just another tool that we wanted to use in addition to the website, again, to continue that communication and also to highlight some positive images that are happening in Kansas City, Kansas. That was one of my favorite things that I thought that this newsletter allowed us to do. And then I was going to talk more about Ricky, but we kind of talked about him a little bit already. So I'm excited to have him back this summer. He's very smart. I love working with students because they always come up with different ways to do things that I would have never thought of with my brain. So I'm excited to have him back, and glad that he is looking at construction management. All the students that we've had work at Dunn, I could probably count on one hand, maybe 5 or so that have actually started looking at construction. So again, just really excited to have him back. Glad he's looking at construction, and I'm sure we'll have a success story for you about him next time.
So is this hot off the press?
Hot off the press.
And where is this going to be distributed?
We're going to distribute it mostly electronically. The print version of it, I wasn't as impressed, but mostly electronically, and it will go to many of the members that you've seen on the board. So all of our EIC members, all of you, obviously, the community, you'll be able to share it with a lot of our trade partners. So we're just excited to be able to share it and with as many people as we can.
We'd encourage you to share it more broadly.
Please.
Nikisha, if you'll make sure that Melissa Bedford-Fears gets a link, she can share it on our social media.
Definitely will. Thank you, Pete. Thank you for making notes.
Keisha, you mentioned this would be reoccurring, this newsletter.
Yes, this is our first edition. We're probably going to do it quarterly. And I like the idea, too, of being able to spotlight some of our MBEs and WDs and LBEs that will be working on this project. Joe Vasquez was one that we selected for this specific edition. So again, there will be an opportunity for us to really just highlight the positive and just show all the good that is happening in the Kansas City, Kansas School District.
Can you show some of the employees, the diversity in the employees on there too as well? If you have it, can you show it?
And,
We do, we will.
we will. And any other ideas that you have for this, welcome, love to hear your ideas. Any other questions on this?
I see, you say you have 12.3% participation to date. Do you have specifics on that?
We do. I think Lee's got more on our specific breakdown.
We've got the slide.
Okay.
Okay.
And we're going to go really into the details about the
Okay, I
participation.
appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Okay. Are there any other?
So other outreach events and efforts. So this log here that's probably unreadable from your seat. You also have a 8.5 by 11 handout of that. So we basically just kept track of all the events that we have considered to be outreach and kind of what bid packages or work packages were discussed and talked about. And I just kind of listed a handful of ones you've heard about, a lot of the ones that we've been talking about already. And we have some events coming up. But, we go to chambers and organizations and present on behalf of the school district projects. We talked about the EAC meetings. We do pre-bid meetings. We'll do job walks with the projects.
Lee, I think there might be some clarification that's needed on this particular sheet. Question.
Could you clarify what WP means?
Work package. Work package. Thank you. Sorry about that. We like acronyms in construction. It's a lot easier than actually saying the full words. So, and these are the easy ones. And then Keisha's really good about, we'll have just individual contractor meetings. A vendor, a partner will come in to our office and we'll have a meeting with them and kind of talk about specific ideas and opportunities on certain projects. Again, and then we track our newspaper ads too, which leads me to the next slide. And I'm going to let Linda kind of talk a little bit as part of her role in the outreach and what she works on.
Yes, one of my roles is once we send out the invitation to bid in our system, we immediately produce an ad to the newspaper that we listed in these 6 ads right here. But basically, we let them know what the project consists of and where they can go to get bidding documents. And we give them information on where the pre-bid meeting is going to be and walk through, and just information on who to contact if they have any questions.
Thank you, Linda. So this was an example. This was specifically the one we did for Work Package 4A, which is the most recent project. That was the Grant Elementary edition that we did earlier in the year. So, and then finally, we've been previewing this one here, but this is a list of kind of the next couple months, the outreach events that we've got coming up. Anywhere from the presentation at the Hispanic Chamber we've got coming up here next couple weeks. Again, we're going to start kind of that bidding process again, kind of our phase 2 of bidding starting in late June through probably October. We'll be bidding another $75 to $80 million worth of work across probably 6 or 7 work packages that we'll be working on. So I was going to let Keisha specifically talk about one of her events that she's been working on.
Yeah, specifically I did want to point out, well, we did talk about we're going to have a pre-qualification workshop right after our next EIC session on June 5th. So just wanted to plug that. But also, something that I'm really excited about is our Construction Workforce Industry Day. And we kind of started talking a little bit about workforce earlier, but this event that we hosted, the first one we just hosted was the end of March out at the Cerner Innovations campus there at Hillcrest and Bannister. We partnered with KPRS radio station, and they were really great at helping us to get the word out about this event. So much so that we had almost 400 people show up looking for information about construction workforce and jobs. We had tons of our trade organizations represented, so everyone from your plasterers union, painters union, to Full Employment Council, Youth Build, etc. So it was a really good day. Lots of folks were connected with information on how to get jobs in construction. And our next event we're looking to host will be at Washington High School sometime in July. Still waiting to get the final word on all of that and approval for that, obviously. Love to have you all be a part of that, and I'll definitely make sure you have the information as soon as it's nailed down. But I did want to share that because that was an exciting event. I'm still gathering information too, statistics on the outcome. So who was hired, you know, the matches that were made. So that's a process in itself, getting everyone to respond to me on that. But hopefully that's some more information that we'll have to share with you as well.
What's the location of your quarterly meetings?
All of our quarterly meetings are typically held at the J.E. Dunn headquarters.
Address?
1001 Locust.
Okay.
Yes, Kansas City 64106.
Thanks. So the next portion of our presentation will be talking about our inclusion successes on this particular project as it was requested and asked earlier. So another one of your handouts is basically our bid results summary for the project, and that's on the back of the schedule sheet 11 by 17. Try to make those numbers as large as possible. There's a lot of information on that sheet. I've just shown the bond totals column here up on the board, but basically the way that worksheet reads is across the columns from left to right. You've got each of the work packages, WP, as we call them, for all the projects that basically started bidding mid last year till the most recent one, which was work package 4A.
Lee, would you mind going over the alphabet just so we all make sure we know what the alphabet is?
Yeah, so going top to bottom, so this column is basically, we've got A is the MBE bidder summary, and 1 through 5 basically kind of breaks down those statistics by work package and also bond totals. B is your WB bidder summary. C is your LBE bidder summary, and that is the LBE ranges that we talked about earlier. And then we've got D is your total MWL bidder summary, and so that's going to be basically MW and L combined. And then finally, E at the bottom is basically any of the bidders that fall outside of the MW or L.
Define the MW and L.
MBE, LB, WB, and LB.
What does MBE stand for?
Say it out loud.
Minority business.
And WB?
Women business enterprise.
Men, women,
Local business enterprise. So
local
thank you,
business.
Gordon.
Thank you.
More ABCs.
So basically, I mentioned this earlier, but we're about 44% in the bond project. So this is almost halfway through. And these percentages based on the dollars awarded to those trade partners. And so minority business enterprise, we are at 12.3%. That's a little under $7.5 million. That's in row A, 4 and 5 there under A. Women business enterprise is at about $8.6 million, 14.3%. That's B9 and B10. And then the local business enterprise, we're at about almost $34.5 million and at 57.3%. So feel pretty good about this. These are, we have projects with goals and other projects that would be happy to have these numbers. So I think that we're looking pretty good so far, 44% in, and you know.
So what are your specific goals for each area?
We do not have goals. Based on state statute, we're unable to we have to take low responsible bid. So that's a Kansas state statute. So these are purely through inclusion efforts and just tracking and the low responsible bid.
Okay.
And who is a non-MWL?
Everyone that's not in the MWL.
Right. Give me an example, please.
Be a majority-owned company outside of that 75 radius. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, very simple answer.
Out-of-state person. How do they find out about your bids? You're on a national network?
yeah, through the advertising that Nikisha talked about, that Lee is covering too, you know, we get the word out in every way possible. High tech, low tech, that would be email. We've got some pretty good software that allows us to reach out to a pretty broad net of those bidders. We do essentially a regional bid process, I would say. So I'd probably draw a 3 to 350 mile radius around this area, around the metro area, and say that we reach realistically a company that's based out of you know, Cleveland, Ohio, is probably not going to make the trip to KCK and be competitive to do that type of project with all those travel costs and things like that. So we try to keep it in a realistic radius
So
around.
someone from St. Louis would have, perhaps?
St. Louis, I'd say yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So help me interpret line 27.
So I think 27, Dr. Nguyen, is basically the amount of dollars that have gone to exactly that group of subcontractors
Right.
or trade partners that are in that,
Right.
you know, outside the radius and a majority-owned firm.
So could one say almost a third of the total amount of dollars awarded have gone to this non-MWL?
Yes.
Okay.
27, 28%.
And there's a balance there, because we would prefer that number to be as high as it can be, but we're also stewards with your dollars. So we want to get the best deal we can with a qualified firm, hoping that most, if not all, is local. So there's a balance between cost and local.
Because it looks a little interesting when you have line 3021, 70% of dollars awarded to MWL, 70%, and then you get your 30 there. So are those of the same pie?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Just wanted to interpret your numbers correctly. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions on that particular information?
Well, I have one.
Yes, sir.
So let me understand you correctly. The goals that you set are kind of internal goals that you set. They're not any. There's not a goal that you have to really meet from a legal perspective.
You're right. Our only goal that we have set is 100% inclusion.
Okay.
We want to outreach to everyone as possible. There are no goals even internally set for M or W or L based on what we discussed earlier.
Okay, and how do you go about making sure you're in compliance with meeting your goals?
Our outreach efforts,
Right.
that would be our standard. We again want to be inclusive on all of our projects regardless if those are approved.
Okay, thank you.
Could you help me understand the line 19 and 25?
So part of what we tracked, sorry I didn't go over that, part of what we tracked, like in line items 1, 2, and 3, for example, we track how many MBE bidders we've invited, how many have responded to the bid, which is bids we received, and then bidders awarded. So I believe you were asking about 19. So total percent of bidders awarded versus responded. So basically, we had 120 bidders awarded in that section out of 353 that submitted a bid, and so that's 34%.
So that's what responded?
Yes, that's awarded versus responded. So how many folks actually received a contract that were a low responsible bidder that are now performing work on your projects? Good question. Sorry.
Yeah. And in perspective, that's a pretty good hit rate. I mean, you get 100 people responding to a bid, and we're saying basically 34 of them are actually going to win the work.
Right.
So the lesson, I think, and the message to the community is, I mean, the hit rate's good. It's 1 out of 3, and we would probably, as a contractor bidding work in this market too, we would be very interested in those odds. So.
Okay.
Is there any time that you can peel that onion a little bit more to zero down on, here we go, parochialism again, Wyandotte County companies, or are there any Wyandotte County companies?
There are, we do have, we don't have that information here. We have studied that internally based on some previous conversations, and we're at 22%. Out of the 57% here, 22 of that is in Wyandotte County.
Oh, you just don't have it shown?
I don't have it shown up.
Okay, okay. Because that's also another number that could be heralded on these projects.
Right. Okay. We've got a couple more documents to go through. These are all going to look very familiar. I'm going to let Cherie talk a little bit about these. You have a handout as well with this one in the next slide, and I'll turn it over to Cherie.
Okay, so you guys have probably seen this before. Again, as Lee said, it is in the handout that you guys have. This kind of just gives you an idea of how we're kind of getting that message across to people. How many meetings are we holding? What are our outreach efforts per package that we're doing as far as all these different schools that we're working in? And then once we actually talk to them, how did you find out about it? Because you guys, one of the things that you guys have asked is how are they getting the information? Is it all just media based? Is it a website, especially with people that are kind of out of the local area? So I mean, some of the people that are responding to our bids, they are talking to the plan rooms and they are talking to the local chambers. Some of them are getting them from our Smart Bid Net, which is where we issue our bids from. So this kind of gives you an idea of how those people are getting that information, how they're receiving that bid. Whether it's from a newspaper, phone calls, a district referral, which we did have out at Wellborn and Gloria Willis. Some of the reasons why trade partners did not bid. I think that was something that you guys kind of had requested and asked for. So what I did, as you guys know, I'm working at Wyandotte High School. I went back to everybody that I had originally talked to and I asked them, hey, you guys told me that you guys were going to bid, you know, kind of touch bases with you throughout the bidding process. Come bid day, I didn't get a bid from you. You said you were going to submit a bid. Why didn't you bid? And it's okay, just trying to understand, you know, what's going on. Did something happen where they weren't able to submit a bid? So we kind of just peeled that back just a little bit more. And here were some of the 5 reasons that we got from them, the people that I called. Other jobs took more time than they had anticipated. You know, they say, hey, we've got these 5 jobs out to bid. And one of them they thought was going to take a week to bid, and now it took them 2 to 3 weeks to estimate. So they just didn't get a chance to get to our job. There was a bigger job. Something was just a lot more appealing to them. That was one that we got for metals. I think that was a big one for mine. A full bid schedule. It is very busy in the construction industry right now. So people are being a lot more selective on what they bid. They have kind of a pick and choose of what they want to bid. Couldn't get numbers from suppliers. Again, with the industry being so full and not having the manpower out there, some guys just couldn't get their numbers from suppliers that they would use. And if they don't get a number from a supplier, they're not going to submit a bid because that's a risky business decision for them. And some of these are just not business decisions that they would take on. Workload's full. The manpower, the workforce is just not out there. They don't physically have the manpower to be able to complete the work that we're asking for them to do. So this is something that we have done though for all of our projects. I just wanted to highlight this one since this is the project that I'm working on. It is just physical phone calls, just picking up that phone, talking to these guys that we've talked to throughout the bidding process, and kind of just understanding where they're coming from and understanding their reasonings. How can we help them out in the future? Anything that we can do to help them out. More than willing to listen to them, or if they needed anything else from us.
Thank you, Cherie. Okay, so last but not least, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Lauren here. She's going to talk about, and again, we've kind of hit on some of this stuff throughout the presentation, but she's going to talk about our connection from our industry to students and staff. So.
All right, I get to talk about the fun stuff. So first of all, Lauren Kepler, I'm in marketing and business development with J.E. Dunn. My mom was actually a Schlegel's graduate, so very proud of that. And my family actually owns Bird Santa Gymnastics, if anyone has kids or grandkids that go there. So I actually coached gymnastics there after work when I first started. So passionate about the kids in this community and this community. So this is a great fit for me, and I love working with the kids. So the image on the left there, building foundations for futures, that kind of just came to life organically. It felt right, you know, we're building actual foundations, quite literally. And then, but really, we know you guys do that, but any small part that we can contribute to building foundations for those students, we want to be involved with. So that's kind of been our goal as these projects have started. And I'm going to cover a few of these on the right side, but really this kicked off with our Diploma Plus involvement, and that started with Dr. Lane and Gordon meeting with and getting that committee rolling. But then we went a step further, and Dr. Strickland and Dr. Morrell, we met with them and decided we were going to host teachers. I've got lots of pictures, so we'll keep it fun. So we have an internal training program at J.E. Dunn, and we thought, why don't we host teachers from high schools that are going to be teaching construction and engineering and architecture. Let's host those teachers and get them the training that our project engineers are getting. So that list over there, it's about project leadership, scheduling, quality, the financial piece. And what that does is it gives your math teachers a way to make it relatable. And how can we teach those construction concepts in my math class as we focus on more of the academy structure. So obviously we had a fun lunch in between there, so got to meet the 2 Wyandotte teachers that day. And the other cool thing about this is it gives your teachers industry connections. The people that they're going through that 3.5-day course with, they can call, ask questions. We delivered some foam insulation to J.C. Harmon last week because a student's building some acoustic panels. We're like, we've got some extra on a job site. So Mr. Bennett actually called me and requested that. So fun, you know, those connections are really important when you're really trying to educate relevant material to kids. So next, really fun day. Actually, in this room, we started out. So these are Wyandotte students. And this is Cherie's project. So the cool thing about this, I get to talk about it, but our whole project team is very involved in these efforts. So that's what's really cool about it. So there's Cherie and John Tan, our superintendent at Wyandotte, and they've got the Wyandotte image pulled up. So what these students, they came all day out here. We did a logistics tour, and these are the A students. So they're interested in architecture, construction, and engineering. So we kind of gave them an intro about each of the companies that were working on their project. They did the tour, and then we came in and we really dug in deep. We had the architect here from Hollis & Miller who went through the plans, kind of where we were shifting stuff in. At Wyandotte, you know, it's really complicated plumbing remodel. So there's a lot to show in the complication, and it's a gorgeous school, so the history there is a really important piece of that. And then they got to talk about the construction side, the civil engineering side, and then we ended the day back at their school, walking through. You see Lee there pointing out some of the utilities up high, and we got to go down the tunnels as well. So it really made it real for them to get to dig into the plans, see the logistics and the complication that goes into planning these types of complicated projects, and then they get to see it at their school. So that was a really fun day, and we're working with Dr. Hoffman and Kim Smith at both J.C. Harmon and Wyandotte, so we can continue those focused efforts for those kids who really have shown an interest in that. Okay. So junior achievement, great resource, and we've been lucky. This is the photo on the left here is at Hazel Grove. That might have been the funnest day I've ever had in my working career. So we had about 20 volunteers from J.E. Dunn go and spend their day at Hazel Grove. And yeah, I don't think I've ever left a school or a day of work happier. So we got to teach them some, and they look pretty happy too, which is the best part. So hopefully we get to go back there soon, but these are the kinds of things that are fun. On the right here is students from middle school in your district that got to tour the Builders Association and then come to J.E. Dunn for tours. So we do about 4 or 5 of those a year, and that's also through junior achievement. So so in the last week we've had 4 career fairs. And these are just some pictures from some of those. That's actually, there's Eric right there. So that's fun. That was a speed career day. And then this is at Noble Prentice in the middle here. That was last Friday. And this was actually yesterday. We had 3 career days yesterday. That's Cherie again, and John Tan were there. But that was actually part of the Diploma Plus job fair. So what we did there, and when we're trying, you talked about trying to get those students actually opportunities with J.E. Dunn. Cherie had an interest sheet because we can't say, you know, the first 3 that come up get internship. It's more about, can they job shadow, or the other opportunities and connections they have. So she's got their contact information, and they have hers, so hopefully we'll get those interested students, actually seniors, so the opportunity is real that they need. Hopefully we get them reaching out to us. So that was a fun event.
I think that was probably the first attempt at a selfie.
He's got a long way to go.
The girls were much more talkative than the boys, I'll tell you that much. And it's really cool. You know, the old days of asking what do you want to be when you grow up are kind of over. And you really have to ask kids the right questions, like what kind of problems you want to solve. Right. Do you like reading? Do you like, what subject is your favorite? You know, things like that. So the dialogue is really, really good. They may not have an answer, but at least you can see that they're starting to think about, you know, what problems do I want to solve? What areas do I want to lean towards and ultimately make a career out of that? Do you like to work with your hands? Those kind of questions are really relevant to these kids, and that's what we try to do with those deals.
I will say that at Washington yesterday, there was about 4 of the students there that were really interested in Carpenters Union, and John sat there with his phone and gave them contact information, and this is who you need to call, and here's who manages our region, and wrote it, I mean, we wrote it all down on a piece of paper to help them out, you know, just, I mean, there was some really good interest yesterday at Washington.
Okay, and we just compiled a list, so since last summer we were working on the Diploma Plus efforts, and we just wanted to kind of get that all on one piece of paper because we plan to do the same thing next year. Mark Stubble has been really great at kind of funneling that and streamlining that and getting that information to me so we can make sure we attend everything we can. So last night we were at the J.C. Harmon ACE Advisory Committee, so we serve on that board. So that's a really good way to not only give input into some of the curriculum that's happening, you know, maybe business communications earlier rather than waiting until 12th grade when maybe they've already have skills that can't be unlearned. So we try to maneuver that. Another thing, tour the classroom, see do they have the right equipment? Is there a surveying tool we can help with? Is there a trade partner we can say, hey, can they tour your facility and see what's going on? So those connections are all ways that we're trying to get involved, and see a spark of interest, because that's all it takes in getting someone passionate about what they want to do. So that's where we're at with that, and I think the next one is any questions.
So what opportunities are there for students who may not go to the target schools? So how is that, so my son, he's going to be an engineer, actually, structural. But if he doesn't attend one of those schools, how would he get that same type of engagement or learning opportunity versus a target?
He's in preschool now, so she's thinking ahead. That's really, Dr. Strickland might want to bring back how that's going to work, because a child, and that question came up at your last board meeting, what if the academy's not in my home high school? So I think maybe that's a follow-up so we can go over how that process will work. You can't tell a kid to have a dream tied to their aspirations and then say, sorry, we don't offer that, right? Exactly. So, yeah, we'll make sure that we bring that.
And we had 2 career days at elementary schools yesterday at Wellborn and Claude Height. And so just getting in there, and they would come in, we'd give a 15-minute, they asked questions, we gave out number 2 pencils, and they loved it. Everyone had so much fun. So I think there's ways that we can get in those classrooms, regardless if they're like, yes, for sure, because not everyone knows, especially that early, you know, maybe not even by senior year. So we're trying to get as big of a reach as possible. And so Mark's been great about giving us those opportunities.
I would say that Matt Gregg is pretty good at that, your superintendent. He'd make a really good teacher, because he's kind of like Elvis now with the kids.
Yeah.
It's pretty popular.
They know him well.
Well, I like to thank you for all the presentations, because you know we fly at about 100,000 feet and not aware of what you're doing on the ground. And so that is something that, in my opinion, we need to work on, because if you had all that fun that day, we sure would like to join you and at least observe you having fun and, you know, suck it in. But not knowing, in my opinion, not knowing what you're doing, I can't deliver your message. And one comment you made from the person, your staff person, I guess, giving names out from the Carpenters Union, that goes back to, I guess, the first time I met you all 100 years ago. Is like, who's that woman asking a million questions? I heard that. But that we were talking about setting up apprenticeships, and we haven't circled back to that conversation. But that if you know the folks in the trades, there's got to be something. I always say, if we can put a man on the moon, we can do it. So there, in my opinion, there could be further engagement to the point of working out. If those 4 folks were really, with the soft skills, with the hard knowledge, blah 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 blah, able to cut the mustard, that is the road in that you can get otherwise being there. So a few of us are still on that, having that discussion that we have not had with you. And with the 5-year program, I would hope, this is year what? 2?
Second year.
Okay, we can't take another year. I mean, another year is it, in my opinion, and then to see some return on the investment. So, but thank you. That was, you can't have all that fun by yourself.
I'll invite you next time.
Yeah. And we'll get selfie sticks.
Well, again, I'd like to thank J.E. Dunn for hosting us and having this meeting today, and at this point, I'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Very good.